You know Jeff Shiegel, Schleg Daddy? Let me respond to a video you did the other day. Let me respond to a video you did the other day. It's part of your Holiday Humbug series. And that video is basically talking about how size in professional wrestling today does matter. And I totally agree with you on that. Size does matter, no matter how much a lot of us wrestling fans want to think otherwise. But when you mentioned at the end that basically if work rate and size didn't matter, that pretty much every wrestling promotion out there would be like Ring of Honor almost. Pretty much. And you know what? You're probably right. You're probably right about that, because here's the thing. There's two reasons why fans, IWC and YWC, get on the keyboards, as you say, and type up things like, no, Dolph Ziggler is one of the best all-time workers out there, one of the best in-ring workers. He should be awarded with championship. Or Daniel Bryan is one of the best of all time in-ring workers. So is CM Punk. They should be the top guys in WWE, the top champions. And that's true. And that's true. In the eyes of a lot of those fans, that's what should happen. When fans see the likes of Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards being signed, or at least being given a tryout with WWE, they're hoping WWE sign the American Rules. WWE, first match for the NXT Tag Team titles, or first match on main roster, WWE Tag Team titles. Fans say that because pretty much to them the work rate, even before, the work rate that they did even before they went to WWE should count for something. You see, they understand, believe it or not, Jeff, that size does matter. And, they understand pretty much that when you have people like John Cena, Randy Orton, Big Show, Kane, Great Khali, Ryback, when you have the Biggie Langston, if you will, when you have these guys featured, even Mark Henry, when you have these guys featured, you have them featured not because, you want to put them in the same position they've been in before. You want them to renew a feud or a rivalry with someone they've faced before. It's because of the overall appeal, the overall look. I mean, when you take a look at this storyline they got going on in WWE with Randy Orton being the face of the company, or who's the face of the company, literally what WWE is trying to do is get across to the IWC and the YWC that, yes, we understand Daniel Bryan's a great worker. We understand CM Punk's a great worker. But they don't have the it factor. They don't have that look. They don't have that crossover appeal just yet. And that's mainly what this whole thing's about. Crossover appeal. Wanting to have somebody that's willing to say, yeah, I'll be a competitor in the ring. I'll compete for WWE. I'll be your champion. Oh, and yeah, I'll go out and do all these media spots. I'll star in some of these movies that WWE Studios brings out. Yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that, blah, blah, blah. That's what they want. And when they see someone like CM Punk, and they see someone like Daniel Bryan, pretty much being more like in-ring competitors, being focused more on the wrestling aspect of things, if you will, when they see fans guys like that being more of a wrestler type, and even if offered a chance to, cross over into other forms of media, as well as still be part of WWE, they're not really going to do it. They're not really going to do it. I mean, maybe, okay, maybe someone like CM Punk might do it. You know, and maybe Daniel Bryan at times might do it. But a majority of the time, unlike a John Cena and unlike a Randy Orton, they're not going to want to cross over. They're going to be like, no, you know, I've done this for you guys, I've done that, but I want to focus more on my in-ring work. And that's why you have that's why you have fans here on the IWC and the YWC piss and moan at the fact that Daniel Bryan got screwed over so many times that he did. They piss and moan that CM Punk's not in the automatically in the title picture. It's all because these guys do not have the look just yet. Yeah, they don't have that it factor just yet. And you know what? And the thing is, it's more along the lines. It's more along the lines that they don't have that it factor. It's not that they don't have that it factor. It's more like they don't. Again, like I said, they don't have that crossover look. They don't have that crossover appeal, if you know what I mean. They don't have that. I mean, you pointed it out yourself. When you have somebody about your size or my size, you know, on top of the #1 wrestling company as champion, or at least as one of their champions, the first thing that goes through your mind is, seriously? The first thing that would go through the casual wrestling fan's mind is, this guy's champion? This guy's smaller than me. You know, this guy's smaller than me, so you're literally pushing this guy as your champion? I can't take him seriously, so I can't take your product seriously. And when you have that casual fan, Jeff, go out and say that stuff, and even say it on camera like I'm saying, like I'm doing at times, like I'm saying right now, or you even have them write it down on the internet and message boards, then that's when you're going to have a lot of the IWC, YWC get on you and say, no, you don't understand. Size does not matter. You know, it's the in-ring work that's going to pay off, because they're going to do it. They're going to be one of the greatest in-ring wrestling champions of all time. You see, it's like I've said before, and I will say it again. I've said before, and I will say it again. Fans look at people like Dolph Ziggler, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, you know, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins. They look at them as being the revolutionaries, being the ones that someday are going to just break open that glass ceiling and finally have WWE focus more on the in-ring work instead of size. Fans are hoping that they're going to break that glass ceiling to the point that every main event, every last match of a pay-per-view, including the WrestleManias of the future, or basically the big 4 pay-per-views of the future, that they're going to hope that those pay-per-views end with two of the best in-ring wrestlers in the business today, competing in the main event in the last match for the WWE Championship. That's what fans hope for when they look at the likes of CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, Seth Rollins, you know, and the list can go on. Antonio Cesaro, you can even throw in there, you know. And the same goes for the ladies. You know, Paige, AJ, you know, they hope for them. Naomi, if you will. Summer Rae, if you want to throw her in there. They hope for them to be the revolutionary divas that break that glass ceiling and have in-ring wrestling focus more on, and you have the in-ring work, the in-ring wrestling become more of a focus for the divas than trying to cross over with reality television like they do with Total Divas. You see, to them, the IWC and the YWC your topic is invalid, Jeff. It's basically size doesn't matter. It's the in-ring ability. And you see there's a reason why they get on you about that. Again, you mentioned, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you mentioned at the end of your video that every promotion would be like Ring of Honor if it was all about wrestling work rate. And that's exactly what some people in the IWC and YWC want. They want WWE to become the major league equivalent of Ring of Honor. They want that. They want WWE to be the major equivalent of Ring of Honor. So that way you could see exactly what Ring of Honor, so that even though you would still have Ring of Honor as the third largest promotion, you would have Ring of Honor style matches in WWE. That's what they want. You see, that's what they want. That's what they want. But in the end, that's what they really want, in my opinion. They're not going to come out and tell you that. They're not going to come out and tell the they're not really going to come out and say that. But pretty much you could tell just by the reactions at times. And yet, they should understand, like I do, yeah, it's repetitive. Yeah, we've seen these feuds before. We've seen these guys in the positions they've been in before. But they have to understand it's all about crossover appeal to WWE. It's all about crossover appeal, which is why you always have John Cena, Randy Orton, Big Show, great colleague. Well, not great colleague, but you have John Cena, Randy Orton, Big Show. Mark Henry. And other big men out there like Kane and such. This is why you always have them at the top of the company, or near the top, because they have that crossover appeal. They have that crossover appeal. And that's why fans, even The Miz, he's about that size. Crossover appeal. That's all it is. To them, it's about, you gotta have a certain look for crossover appeal and not be focused more on the work rate. That's basically what the situation is. You gotta have the look. You gotta have that crossover appeal to you. And that's why, to them, size is always going to matter. You take a look at TNA just recently. You could argue the same thing there. Because recently they crowned a new TNA World Champion. And it's someone you were hoping they were going to make champion. And he's about 6 foot, if not over. And you're right. Back in the 80s, when I was growing up as a fan and you were growing up as a fan, guys like Hulk Hogan, King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, Kamala, Paul Orndorff, if you will. All these guys had that crossover look, that crossover appeal to them. Bam Bam Bigelow the same way. So the fact of the matter is this, Jeff. You're right. Size does matter in the business. But when you try to tell that straightforward to the IWC and the YWC, they will, and they have all right to say this, they will counter you by saying that size doesn't matter and it should be more about the in-ring work rate and the in-ring ability. And at times it is about that. It is sometimes that main quality is about that at times. And I'm not going to deny that. Because there have been people that have never been the biggest in the business that have allowed the in-ring wrestling abilities, the in-ring work rate, to reward them with being the top person in the WWE, WCW, ECW, AWA, TNA, you name it. They've allowed the work rate to reward them. But the thing about the wrestling business, it's basically a flip-flop business, if you know what I mean. So it's basically a flip-flop business. It's a flip-flop business. And what I mean is one day it'll be about in-ring ability and in-ring work rate and in-ring wrestling ability. Then the next day, it's all about size and a crossover appeal. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's one day it's this, one day it's that, and that's why you have the IWC and the IWC, split down the middle at times like you do. Some that will agree with you that say, yes, size does matter because of the crossover appeal. While others will disagree and say, no, it should be about the in-ring wrestling ability. The fact is, Jeff, it doesn't necessarily matter. Well, it does matter. The fact is, Jeff, right now, it's, let me try to say this in closing. Right now, we're in a day, in a time, in a period where size does matter, but before you know it, it could flip once again, and the next day, probably the next month or two, it'll be all about the in-ring wrestling ability. That's basically how the business is working right now, the way I see it. Which is why you have fans divided. So, that's just my response to you, Jeff. Let me know what you think about it. Keep up the great videos, and hopefully, and hope to hear you answer some of my questions on your Q&A of the YWC. And keep up the great work, Jeff, and God bless. Take care. Comments from all of you people are welcome as well.